That's right. You're listening to and watching the Arsenal Review USA podcast. It's the podcast for the American Gooner in association with Arsenal America and the Big Diag. I'm Joel. Kyle is here also. A lot of interesting stuff. I mean, I guess one thing that hasn't changed, we can all agree upon, is that Arsenal haven't become any less interesting. If anything, it's kind of us, everybody, continually trying to figure out when Arsenal are going to kind of find some, I don't want to say form because they're clearly in good form or better form right now, but they're going to find some consistency, some kind of coherence in the way they play. They're scoring lots of goals, but the question is, when is that going to take some kind of systematic shape? I think that's the question, Kyle, that we'll go over today. It's like, do they need to find any shape? Do they need to find any coherence? Because clearly the uglier they get, the better they get. I mean, we finally got a clean sheet, so there's something to be said of there. But a couple other things to address: the midweek defensive lapses, the weekend defensive lapses that thankfully didn't result in any goals, and just in general, the very confusing but very successful, very effective forward line that Arsenal's kind of like sifting through here, trying to find. I mean, I still don't know if we have a forward line that we can really rely upon, like a stable four, because it's usually like 3 or 4 people. That Arsenal can rely on.
Right now, you just have one forward, so I guess you can't call it a forward line.
No, you're not counting Aubameyang as a forward.
Well,
your starting position.
Your 4 forward most players, so those 3. Well, the number 10, the 2 wingers, I guess you would call them, and the forward playing up as, well, not really a point man because he's not Giroud in this case, but Aubameyang getting the offside goal that he likes so much against Everton, so that's always nice. I think one thing that's really interesting about this run of form, this 5 games on the trot now, 4 of 4 in the league, right up there in the, well, I guess in 6th place, but very much in control of the league right now as it pertains to the most recent schedule. Obviously not the greatest start in the world, we all know that. We're not going to go back to that point, but let's be honest with ourselves here, that as Arsenal fans, as supporters, as people that follow the club, it's like we can't not complain about something, even on with 5 wins on the trot or 4 wins on the trot or whatever it is now, especially in the league, because we can't just walk away from lackluster performance against Everton and be happy about it, the first clean sheet of the year, and be happy that both Lacazette and Aubameyang got a goal. We have to complain about the fact that Ozil was absent again, or Ramsey's not a winger, or Ozil's not a winger, or Aubameyang isn't a winger. We have to complain about one player in particular being played out of position, or we're wasting so and so.
Yeah,
I mean, I get all that. I definitely do. I understand the concern around playing someone out of position for too long, and we get into this situation where everyone wants to be a number 10. Elliot made a good point last week when we had the Yankee Gunner on the podcast that everyone wants to play that number 10, or every forward wants to play up top. But again, the fact remains is that either we want our best players on the pitch at all times, or we don't. And I think I know for me, I would much rather see Aubameyang out on the wing, partnering with Lacazette in some way, shape, or form, than sitting on the bench, or vice versa, with Lacazette sitting on the bench and Aubameyang out on the wing. The last thing I want, though, however, from those two is playing too much, being run ragged before these dog days of the Premier League finally show up in November, December, and January. But all that said, I'm thankful that we're not seeing, like we've seen in the past, is Arsenal have typically struggled through these types of this long run of easier fixtures sometimes in the past, have not gotten the results in the end. Yes, there's a lot of defensive cleanup to do, like in the Vorskla game, even against Everton, even though we kept a clean sheet. But the fact remains is that 4 of 4 now in the league, and we're right back in the mix of things. So I think that's really encouraging.
Yeah, they are in the mix of things. I think that's the only thing that really people, really only the picky people are still being picky. But the depth, not the depth thing, but the susceptibility to injury is the one thing that everyone's kind of scared about when it comes to the forward starting lineup. Yeah, clearly right now the tactic is just to start your best players. And, hopefully that'll work for you, which really, to be fair, that's what bailed Arsenal out of the Everton game. We'll talk about the Vorskla game a little bit. I mean, that was a weird game because they did so well, obviously, against such a bad team. And then they kind of lapsed at the beginning, the end, to let in 2 goals. So I don't think that was anything new in terms of Arsenal's DNA for this season that we saw. We kind of expected that maybe they'd have a lapse or two. But the Everton game was crazy because they lapsed a lot of times. There was still that issue with passing out of the back just not working. I know the commentators, at least the NBC ones, were all but berating Arsenal for continuing to do that. We can talk about that in a second, the passing out of the back. But then clearly their good players bailed them out, where I think Everton's good players, or Everton in general, probably wish they had players like that, because it was Lacazette's just amazing goal that came out of nowhere, really, that bailed Arsenal out. And then obviously the linesman just being nowhere on that call, which is the craziest offside call non-call I've seen in quite some time. I mean, you usually, the benefit of the doubt does not go to the attacker anymore. That's why calls like that are so crazy, because usually it'd be like the other way around. Like Aubameyang would be a couple feet on the other side of that last defender, and he'd be called offsides. That's usually the craziness of offsides decisions. But it wasn't that. It was something where I can only assume the linesman thought like Ramsey didn't touch it or something. Maybe he thought the defender touched it, and that's what kind of glanced it to Aubameyang. But yeah, it saved Arsenal's bacon a lot. To the point, the other thing that saved Arsenal's bacon was their good players. So right now, I think that's definitely the tactic that, if nothing else, Emery is he's erring on the side of just having his best players in there. I don't know though if you could consider Ramsey, as much as his stock has kind of risen with us on this show in recent times. I don't know if you could say he's one of the. I don't know if he knows where he's. If Emery knows where he's supposed to be playing Ramsey right now, or what he does. His keeping defenses honest, his running in behind the back isn't as effective as it used to be. So he's kind of out there right now. And I think Ozil has been out there too, with the exception of maybe like last weekend. But it's just a very amorphous, very shifting front line. I think the only certainties are Lacazette and Aubameyang just doing what they do right now. Other than that, there's no system really in place. The question is, what do we do like further back now, where we keep having problems, and where now we've really got problems because Socrates is. I mean, what's the last news on him? Is he really done in, or is he going to be coming back anytime soon?
Not sure. I know. Not that they're a like-for-like replacement by any means, but he has played here before. But Kolasinac back in full training, I think, in the next week or so. So someone like him, especially with the international break coming up here in a matter of, I guess, another couple match days. Hopefully, he'll be back. We can check for everyone here. I know we're live, but we'll do our best.
Coming at you hot.
Yeah, to bring it in
for all you millions of people watching this live.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the other important thing to point out, and I actually mentioned this in my 1-minute review that I put out on our YouTube channel post-match, is that I thought Rob Holding did I was just gonna say pretty good job filling in a guy who hasn't got a lot of match minutes yet this season, and it certainly is coming under criticism of, is he good enough to play for a club like Arsenal? I wouldn't say that he is ready to start game after game after game, but that might have to be the case here if Socrates does not come back in a timely fashion. And let me tell you here,
the weird thing about, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we don't. So this is as of September 23rd. So that's yesterday after the game. We do not know, but the first analysis is that the doctors will have to wait until tomorrow. It's his knee, but I'm hoping it's not too serious. That's from Unai Emery directly.
So yeah, who knows? Basically, the good thing about Holding is I think he plays better when he's called upon in like these bit part roles in terms of time played. He's right. I feel like he's had good games when he's like come out of the blue. When he's got an extended run, I don't know. Maybe it's just such a small sampling size that you think he has good games, because you hardly ever see him. It's kind of like, oh yeah, thank God he's back. But like I want to say the FA Cup final, he was pretty good. Well, that was years ago. But like just games like that, those are the ones I remember where he comes out of the blue and he actually does a good job when he's in the team for this is weird, but when he's in the team for an extended period of time or extended run of games, I feel like he like falls off a little bit and
Yeah.
it's like
Well, if you
his bad golf swing comes back or something, like just something like bad habits come back when he
yeah,
plays back.
players like him that don't get a ton of game time, a simple just a half of a performance or putting in a shift can bring a lot of confidence. If you remember when we first signed Callum Chambers, he actually, I think, he got kind of thrust into the fire a little bit rather quickly, and I think had a little bit of a rough go the first couple of games, but kind of settled in. And then he may have gotten injured, or someone came back from injury and he didn't play for a while, and then he just like kind of fell off a cliff in terms of form. So who knows? Maybe a run of games here might give Rob Holding some confidence, but let's at least fingers crossed for any of the regular first teamers coming back from injury.
Yeah, and also in that Everton game, you saw why Petr Cech, bad back passes or not, is still going to be, I think, the goalkeeper for a long time because he has such a presence and he single-handedly keeps Arsenal in the game a lot of times. Again, yeah, terrible passing in the back. I mean, not so much in the Everton game. That was mostly from the Arsenal defenders who are doing risky passing, and then other people not being able to Xhaka field passes correctly. But Cech, an immense presence that just he like saves you. I feel like one or two pretty much automatic goals per game, just the way he smothers breakaways and just commands his area. So yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere for a while. A little bit further afield, a good takeaway from the Everton game was that the Torreira is just a very intelligent, very assertive, positionally proactive player, whereas maybe Xhaka isn't always that, but we knew that. So I just wonder how far away we are from a Guendouzi Torreira partnership. I sense not far. No, am I just underestimating the loyalty to the expensive midfielder and Xhaka?
I mean, considering, I think Unai Emery's going to have to see something he really doesn't like from those two in order not to start them going forward here. Torreira and Xhaka. I mean, we did keep our first clean sheet of the season, having started Torreira.
He hasn't seen anything bad with Xhaka in like the last 5 games. That's what sounds like.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that
something really bad.
Something really bad.
I mean,
yeah, the scale of bad to really bad might be a big one. I'm not sure, but I mean, the fact remains is that first start of those two together in a match produced or helped produce a clean sheet. And yes, it wasn't pretty, and Cech had to make some saves to keep that clean sheet alive.
Mm-hmm.
But you did have kind of what I think people are looking for there is Torreira being just the workhorse in the middle and cleaning up the trash, and Xhaka having a little bit more freedom to go forward and ping balls around the pitch. He didn't do it quite as well as he did in the second half against Newcastle, which I thought where he really thrived in that particular role. And give them more than one game to see what happens there. I mean, you can't immediately run to the Guendouzi, Torreira, let's try that now because we didn't like a few things that we saw from that partnership. I mean, we've been yearning for a really solid defensive partnership for however many years now, and finally we might have something that I think provides a little bit of balance both defensively and offensively from those positions. So if you look at Torreira and Xhaka, let's give them a run of games here. And then, maybe Unai Emery is going to assess what he has available to him, after this next international break. But we have a few more games that we can, try that partnership out, I think.
Yeah, I know it might sound too simplistic to say, yeah, they started together, and as a result, we got the first clean sheet. But, I mean, I think there is something there. I mean, maybe I'm oversimplifying or generalizing the chances that went against Arsenal that, were Everton chances. But I feel like most of them were like the defense's making. Not necessarily that the defensive midfielder or the midfielder wasn't covering their angles. So yeah, it was just kind of a weird game for Arsenal in terms of the chances they gave up. They're usually from someone giving the ball away or playing around with it in dangerous areas, But I think the partnership of Xhaka, and especially Torreira. They have a lot more solidity, at least in the midfield, the midfield defensive area, if not the rest of the defense. Yeah, I think the rest of the defense had itself to blame for many of the errors or many of the problems they faced most of the day against Everton. Yeah, yeah. Any love lost for Theo Walcott? I thought he had a couple ironic cheers go up from the Arsenal faithful when he
Well,
misses on the ball.
he had an early chance, right? Sort of.
Yes, sort of.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm
And then he got hit in the face with his chance. Right? That's what gave him a shiner.
Yeah,
it looked
I think
like
so.
The ball. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, love him or hate him, has third? No, I mean, he's in the top 10 of like most goals in an Arsenal shirt. I think.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
Quite a few appearances. Certainly had his moments in some matches throughout his Arsenal career. So, he's the sort of guy that I think left the correct way, saw an opportunity to go to a club where he was going to play regularly, which wasn't the case at Arsenal at the moment, even under Wenger. So with a new manager coming in, who knows? Now, I would say we could use more speed, like Theo Walcott down the wings here and there, but never the greatest of defenders. So I'm not sure that he would be thriving in the newest approach by Unai Emery, especially the playing out of the back piece of things, because he's never had the greatest touch in the world or the greatest passing ability in the world. But all that said, not to focus on Theo Walcott too much, I'm sure it was a great moment for him to be back, and no ill will whatsoever against a guy like him. I think he served the club well, and wish him the best, obviously, with Everton, because they're a weird side because they seem to have a lot more talent than their play would suggest.
Right. Yeah, they are a weird side this year. They've given us fits and starts at different times throughout the years. Either they've given us a lot of trouble or they've been a rollover team. I feel like they kind of go back and forth. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned his speed down the right, because I think that's something that's been missing or was missing in the Everton game. We kind of concentrated like on I want to say on the other side of the pitch. Maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but in the beginning of the season, Bellerin was very much a feature, and I know Mkhitaryan was too. So it was just weird that it's just weird that we're kind of getting away from that in recent games, when it looks like maybe Arsenal's kind of struggling for some ideas and some speed, like you said, in certain areas of the pitch. But I mean, yeah, you can't pick over it too much when somehow they're getting the wins that they just absolutely were not getting last season, and then especially at the beginning of this season against good teams. I mean, the proof is in the pudding when they play a really good side or a better side, how well they're going to do, how well they're going to match up. But right now, I am plenty happy for them to play poorly or look poor, the way they're playing and the way they're moving the ball around and get results. That is definitely an art form. Like you can't say it's luck all the time, because there are teams that specialize in that kind of those kind of results. Getting those kind of results, despite the way they look. It's it's well documented. And one thing I want to talk about to that end, I think Petr Cech said as much, or I'm highly paraphrasing what Petr Cech said, but he said as much that it's good to win when you're playing ugly. He said that, and then I know Bellerin said something about maybe. I'm speaking generally to the paradigm shift at Arsenal right now. Both of those players, Cech and Bellerin, have basically said that there is a paradigm shift and there is a different focus from Emery. He's very tough. He's very specific with the way he wants to do things, and there's the inference that he's calculating things for each team that he plays, rather than, well, I think Bellerin said it outright that Wenger's the kind of manager, and we all suspected this much, that would just tell them play to your potential, play as good as you can be, do your thing, and you will win. Which that seemed to be maybe the case 55% of the time, which winning. Because
or don't try your best and you won't lose your spot.
Be yourself and don't try. There are probably a million variations that played out in a player's mind given the results that they got. But clearly, that's something that is I don't know if that speaks to maybe a frustration that they had with Arsene Wenger, or maybe just a big difference they notice in Emery, or probably both. But that is something that's been cropping up recently, I feel like, and more than just those two guys and how they speak about the Emery's training and his philosophy to approaching games. And again, that could just be because they're pressed for, they're pressed for an interview, they're pressed for responses on, hey, what do you think of the new coach or the new manager? But that is something that's interesting to me, that they're just like so forthright with how Wenger was, at least Bellerin was.
No, I mean, you got that from Ozil last week against Newcastle. They interviewed both him and Xhaka at the same time. And, Ozil's not one to get a whole lot of post-match interviews, but I think he was he handing out the man of the match to Xhaka? I forget exactly which way it went, but Ozil said as much as well. He basically pointed out that, the most important thing was the 3 points, and that, everyone's bought into Emery's new approach, and that, he being Emery has very specific goals in mind for each match. And that came to fruition against Newcastle as well, away from home. Yeah. And so, I mean, even like, as tough as we've been on a guy like Ozil, and rightly so in a lot of cases, he seems to be a guy, again, that's coming around. We've seen some matches lately in the last, 2 or 3 matches of a spark and at least some sort of effort from him in all facets of the game, both defensively, creatively, and, scoring goals as well, like we saw against Vorskla, which we saw against Newcastle. So, he's starting to put the ball in the back of the net as well, which is just an added feature of his game that we haven't seen in quite some time. So, you can't complain really about not only the run and form, but I think the mentality that these players are taking under Unai Emery's leadership and a new approach. And I think, to Emery's credit, a lot of people actually have pointed this out. I read a number of comments on Twitter and different blogs that, the worry was that when he first came in is that he didn't speak English, hardly at all, at least not to where he could articulate the points in training that he wanted to get across. And I mean, he is like leaps and bounds better in, post-match interviews and all the speaking engagements that he's had to do in the first month and a half of a new season, from going from where he was when he first came on as manager to now. And I'm sure that he's speaking English and has a teacher like every day for multiple hours. Right. So obviously anytime you immerse yourself in a language, that's really going to help. But, hats off to him, to a guy, coming in second language, third language, whatever it is, to now it seems as though he's able to articulate what he wants to do, and the players are buying in, 100%.
Yeah, well, yeah, clearly, if they're saying he's very specific, very like pushing them on certain things. Clearly, he can. Someone can articulate from him.
Yeah, and what's the assistant coach's name? He brought him over with him from PSG.
I know. Well, I mean, see his face. I forgot exactly.
Yeah, my point is that you almost always see the assistant coach, flipping through a book or showing players something on a clipboard before they go into the game as a substitute. When was the last time you saw Wenger or Steve Bold or whoever else actually okay, this is specifically what I want you to do?
I've seen Boldy with some iPads before. I feel like he's done one of these with some players.
The average is going way up with the first 7-8 matches of the season so far. They have. We are putting you in the game to do this specific thing, and we're going to show you what it is. Very much, obviously, a different approach, something new for the players, and it seems to be working out so far. So, more power to Emery. To business as usual. Let's continue moving down this path.
Yeah. Big plug there for. I almost said Babelfish. Babelfish isn't around anymore. It's Rosetta Stone. What was Babelfish? That was just what you used for like cheating in college or something, when you had to translate something really quick. Not cheating, guys.
Google Translate.
Yeah, that's Google Translate.
Duolingo. Duolingo is a good app.
It's a complete sidebar, but isn't that interesting how those foreign managers, that's immediately the first thing they do, and they take to it very quickly, and usually the only time that it seems like they're kind of like picking up the English language slower, or they're only using it a slower pace, is because they don't want to speak it in front of journalists and such, and look like complete idiots, but they actually know it. I feel like Pochettino And Guardiola kind of did that. They kind of like waited a little bit longer until they actually used it in interviews because they just didn't want to look stupid. But like, yeah, and then you got like Gareth Bale, who never learns like Spanish. You know, he's been in Madrid for who knows how long and doesn't speak a lick of Spanish. You know, like nice. All right. Yeah. So anyway, some other things to touch on here. I think that's all we got for the 2 games to review. I know Vorskla review was kind of sparse, but you know. Yeah.
So was our defending the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it's just like, you know, tit for tat there.
Yeah.
Right. Like we have sparse Vorskla coverage, which I watched. I ended up finding it in its entirety and watching it. But like, how do you get those games now? Like they've really, because of like the TV rights and stuff, and or not the TV rights, but that's part of it. But just the coverage on certain things, especially like. You know, if you try to watch Champions League now, it's crazy. It's just like so hard to get these games. What is Europa League even on anymore? I don't. Besides, you know, your stupid Fox Extra.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you. I mean, it back in the day when ESPN 8 the Ocho, you know, was a joke in dodgeball, which was 2004 or something. I mean, that's kind of what we've run into. There's 5 or 6 box channels, I feel like now, and you have all the streaming options and pirated streams when the Premier League match.
I mean, full disclosure, that's why I end up watching it. Not a pirated stream, but it's like one of those sites that has the entire game, like, you know, a game in its entirety after the fact somehow. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Hopefully you guys saw the Vorskla game in some capacity. Kind of crazy. Scored 4 goals. Then we gave up 2 right at the end. Good times with Arsenal defense. All right. So I don't think that's what we predicted for the Vorskla game by any means. Kyle, you have I
had 2 3-1s, I think.
Oh, right. I had a 2-1. Elliot had a 4-1 for Vorskla. Then obviously Everton, we had the same dealio here. We had 2-1 for me, 3-1 for you, 3-1 for Elliot. No one was right on those, but if you're keeping score, which no one is, hopefully you're Kyle, I guess that's points for us for all the games, just not maximum points.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I need to update that, but the completely meaningless score prediction is on the right-hand column of the website if you want to check it out.
Cool.
The other thing that you can do on the website, perfect time, Joel, to plug some of the other things we have going on. We've talked about it numerous times. You might be sick of it by now, but I don't care. I'm going to tell you again. We have something this season called the 1-minute reviews. So essentially, we want to open up the platform to allow you, listeners of the podcast, fans of Arsenal that don't have a chance to circle up in a big mob and yell and scream and complain about stuff. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's a fine platform, but you know we don't have the ability to do that. What we want to give you is a chance to record a 1-minute review, video, not audio, and submit it on our website at the bottom, and we'll edit it for you, and we'll make it.
Presumably, there's audio with the video. Just
yes, not just you.
I'm not confused.
You know,
like but languaging, picture in picture.
That's fine, that's actually. If you wanted if you wanted to send that, we will certainly accept it, but we'll need a translation from American Sign Language to subtitles. Anyhow, the fact is that. You know, we do have some prizes up for grabs. We didn't have anyone take us up on the prizes from last week. So we still have some T-shirts to give away, some different decals to give away from anyone that wants to submit a 1-minute review at the bottom of arsenalreviewusa.com. We'll edit it for you. We'll make it look pretty. We'll fix any audio issues. We promise you that we'll make it look good, and we'll post it on our YouTube channel just to get more voices out there around reviewing matches and just kind of your thoughts on the game and the season thus far. And I think just kind of a fun way for people to get involved and, you know, have their voice be heard. So check it out. We will accept them after each and every match. So, you know, if one day you don't feel like it and the next you feel like you can concisely, articulate your thoughts into 1 minute, submit it and we'll get it up for you.
Cool. Yes. We'll get it up for you. That's our model here on our
that's maybe not the best way of putting it. We'll post it.
That's our That's our motto. All right. Yeah. So I think that's all we got for you on this live show. Right after that great note.
Oh boy.
Great note of encouragement. On the first live show we did another live show this season so far. Yeah, it's like a
second, I guess.
Not that it matters, but we'll probably do another one here. Well, coming up, speaking of predictions, I blew past this entirely. Coming up, we got Brentford, obviously, on Wednesday nights. So 2 days from now, 2 evenings from now, Brentford and then Watford. I think, Kyle, you went ahead first for predictions for our last 2 games. So I'm going to go ahead for – wait, no. I went first. Go ahead. You go first.
Brentford at home. Probably a lot of rotation, but they're a championship side nowadays, right? So
sure,
something like that. Let's go another 3-1.
I'm gonna go 3-0. I'm gonna go 3-0, and then for Watford at home, I'm gonna go. Well, that's at home. Watford's not bad. I mean, they're not good either.
They're second in the league right now.
That's true.
So no.
Well, they're up there. They're up
third
there.
Or fourth. They're above us. Yeah,
they were second. Yeah. So they're not good nor bad. They oscillate a lot. So it's going to be a 2-1. I say 2-1 win for Arsenal. What about you?
I'll say the same.
2-1. Okay. 2-1. Yeah. Cool. These meaningless scores are meaningless, but they're down. All right. So those are predictions for Brentford.
I'll get those scores up for you. I'll get them up for you, Joel.
Okay, go. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. both of us guys on this podcast. All right. So Brentford and Watford. Those will be interesting games. Those kind of close out the mini series of home games for Arsenal. Hopefully, we can get maximum points from these last 2 home games that we've got, because we've got maximum points in the last 5 games? 5 games.
Yep.
Which is great considering some of those games were away from some of those games. Yeah, 2 of those games were away from home. A thing that, a location, a place that really gave us problems last season.
Multiple locations.
Yeah, yes. Multiple locations. So yeah, it's good to see Arsenal winning, no matter how they do it, no matter how ugly they look. Yeah, I don't know how soon we can expect some kind of system, some kind of coherence. Yeah, something to really hang our hat on and have I don't know, 6 to 7 nailed down starting positions in the Arsenal lineup besides the defenders. It'll be interesting to see if Arsenal can get that sometime soon. In the meantime, it doesn't matter. They're winning games, and hopefully we can keep doing that against the opponents we've got coming up here, Brentford and Watford. So any closing thoughts, Kyle, before we cut people loose? People that are glued to their YouTube sets.
Yeah.
As if you could go to a YouTube set, as if there's a YouTube set. It's not a 2D. But
you never know. I mean, they do offer it as like a built-in app in most TVs now. But
yeah, that's true.
I mean, someone could legitimately be watching this on their TV. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing that, thank you. Thank you for watching. Or if you're listening, thank you for listening. So many thank yous. Oh, actually, you know what? I do need to say thank you to the Virginia Beach Gooners and anyone that was associated with, I think actually also the Gooners in the USA podcast. Actually, his name is escaping me, Mike maybe. They did something called Gooners Against Cancer, some sort of organization around raising money for cancer awareness and research. And the Virginia Beach Gooners, who we had on the show a couple weeks ago when they were promoting their Virginia is for Lovers event that was held this past weekend, they raised over $1,000 for cancer research. And we auctioned off some of our decals, and we actually auctioned off as part of that a guest appearance on the podcast. So someone actually, bid on that and will be a guest with us in an upcoming show here in the next probably month or so. But pretty cool, in one of those kind of regional events held, hosted by all the different branches throughout Virginia, but specifically in Virginia Beach, raising money for cancer awareness. So hats off to everyone involved there. Hopefully next time we'll be able to make it out with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Kyle, I'll let you lead us out of the show because obviously I've gone into the witness protection program here. My light went off, so that's why, so I don't creep anybody out. You want to say goodbye for us?
Yeah, well, like I was saying, thanks to everyone for watching, for listening, and we'll catch you post Watford on the next podcast. Take care.